Assalamu alaikum. With Eid-al-Adha nearing, I've decided to put together this Eid card tutorial using the Altenew Eid-al-Adha stamp set, and I'll be listing all the materials that I use in the description below. So to start off, I've cut a piece of white cardstock down to 5¼ inches by 4 inches, and I'm just putting that on my Misti stamp tool. Then I'm just grabbing the lanterns from the stamp set and arranging them with the sticky side up. And then I'm closing my Misti and then just pressing down firmly to adhere my stamps to the plastic. And then here I'm just grabbing my powder tool and just adding powder to the paper so that there's less static later. And then I'm using Versamark embossing ink to ink up my stamps. Closing my Misti yet again, and then just pressing firmly to get a nice print. And then I'm using my gold embossing powder from Rangers and just pouring that on. And then I'm tapping off the excess powder and then hitting that with my heat gun so everything melts into place. Here I've actually cut a piece off of the lantern stamps and I'm stamping in the empty spaces, and this is because I wanted the lanterns to look a little bit more filled in. So I'm taking that to my embossing powder from before and just tapping off the excess, and then I'm hitting that with my heat gun so those melt into place. So I'm taking my cardstock back to my Misti and I'm just going to repeat all of these steps again so that I can get a thicker embossed image. So here I'm grabbing my Versamarker and I'm just using it to go over some areas again, just because I really want a thicker embossed coat. So here again, I'm just piling the same embossing powder from before, and then I'm tapping off the excess, and I'm actually using a small paintbrush to brush off any excess powder and then hitting those areas with my heat gun. And as you probably can tell, the embossed areas have gotten a lot thicker. For this next portion, I'm going to be using Tim Holtz Distress inks in Evergreen Bough, Fired Brick, and Chipped Sapphire. So I'm going to be taking my 3 colors and putting them on a plastic sheet, and these are water-based, so they will act as watercolors. So I'm using a spray bottle to spray water onto each of the colors. So if you look closely, the ink is actually resisting the embossed image, and this technique is called smooshing. So just like with any other watercoloring, you want to build up the colors. So at first you want to have more water to paint ratio, and then as you keep adding layers, you want to have more paint to water ratio. Here I'm moving on to the red, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm trying to keep it so that the inks are kind of like the same sizes as the lanterns. And then here I'm moving on to blue, and this actually dries quite purple, which is exactly what I wanted for this card. So once everything has dried, I'm going in with some sequins that I got from prettypinkposh, and I'm using glossy accents to adhere those to the card. Here I'm using tweezers to also help me put the sequins in place. Next, I'm adding star confetti that I actually picked up from Party City, and I'm also using my glossy accents to adhere those on as well. Once I'm done adding accents, I'm adhering the piece to another white cardstock that I've cut down to 8½ inches by 5½ inches folded, and here I'm just using my tape gun to add adhesive along the edges of my hanging lantern piece, and then I'm going to adhere that to my folded cardstock. Here I've cut a small piece of white cardstock down to 3 inches by 1¾ inches, And then I've actually cut the Eid-al-Adha Mubarak phrase from the stamp set to this simplified version. And then I'm just putting that on a stamping block. And then I'm using Versamark embossing ink to ink that up. And then I'm just pressing that down firmly to get a nice print. And then I'm just taking that over to some embossing powder in the same gold and tapping off the excess. And then hitting that with my heat gun so it melts into place. After that, I'm just using my tape gun to add adhesive to the back of the Eid Mubarak sentiment, which I'm then going to press down onto my card. So next, I've opened up my card and I'm adding powder to it, and then I've actually cut a piece off of the lantern stamp and I've just put that on a stamping block, and then I'm inking that up with my Versamark embossing ink again, and then I'm just going to press that down firmly to get a nice print, and then I'm going to move that over to my gold embossing powder again, and then tapping off the excess and then just getting a second coat on there just to make sure all the spots are covered, and then I'm hitting that with my heat gun. Next, I'm using glossy accents to add adhesive to the dangling stars, and I'm gluing on some of the same gold star confetti from Party City. And once done with that, the card is complete. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I filmed this quite a while ago, but just never got around to editing it, and I will be uploading a few more videos soon, and I have a lot more ideas that I'm going to work on, inshallah. So thank you all so much for watching, and may you all have a blessed rest of your year. Salam! Peace!